All right, welcome to tonight's interview. Tonight we have Jade Gray. Jade Gray grew up on a farm in Oklahoma with one sister and three brothers. She began reading romance novels in high school and was absolutely hooked. In an attempt to entertain her friends, she began writing stories. The biggest hurdle she had to overcome with her writing was sharing her stories. Her former writing groups, the Wichita area romance authors and low country romance writers, helped her with her confidence and shook the need for pom poms to get her motivated for publication. She is also a former member of the Romance Writers of America. She met her husband while attending college and has two grown sons. Not really knowing what she wanted to do when she grew up, she held various jobs in the accounting and legal fields. She now lives in Kansas with her husband, rescue cats Meera and Mango, and one spoiled dog named Fabio. Yes, she named the dog Fabio. She loves to hear her husband calling for his four-legged companion. Welcome, Jade Gray.
Good evening.
Yeah, I'm doing absolutely wonderful. Thank you for joining me here tonight. I'm truly honored, and it's a privilege to be able to have this conversation with you and to highlight your books and everything that you're working on. So you have a dog named Fabio, man. That is absolutely awesome. That's a great name. So tell me, I got to know, is he a stud?
In his own mind, yes.
In his own mind. Okay. So what is it that you actually love about hearing your husband calling out Fabio? Is it like the way that he says it, or how's that go?
Well, it's payback.
It's payback. Okay.
He got the dog. The timing was off for getting a dog. And he
Yeah.
said, well, you get to name it since you didn't want me to get the dog at this time. So he went off on his business trip,
Yeah.
came back, and Fabio came to Fabio by the time he got back. So that was the end of his name picking because
Yeah.
romance writer, German, kind of a twist on a German short hair.
Oh,
Although
okay.
Fabio, has long hair, but it's a little sarcastic too.
Oh, okay. We have a dog. We have a dog. We have a pug, and I like a little bitty fat thing. But our dog's name is Leo. Now I had a dog before named Buddy, and that was just because I couldn't think of anything better. I was like, "Get over here, Buddy," and then it just kind of stuck, and there it was.
Yeah,
Yeah. So,
we had a cat named Bud.
yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And yeah, I just couldn't think of anything better to call him. So you write under a pen name. That's very interesting. Many authors actually do that, and I see value in it. Myself, I write within the nonfiction world. I write professional development, self-help type books. However, I do have a pen name in which I'm writing novels in. So share your thoughts on why you chose to do that and why you chose the name that you did. Is there actually a bigger meaning behind your pen name?
My maiden name is Gray, and when I started writing, jotting down stories in high school, I always wanted to be published under Gray. My
Mhm.
husband's kind of unhappy about it, but there's little security reasons for
Mhm.
using a different name sometimes. So
Okay.
Jade is kind of a play on color. Jade and Gray are both colors. So
Yeah.
my friend we just sat around and named colors, and Jade's close to my real middle name, so we just went with it.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a pretty good way of looking at it. When I went with the pen name that I chose, I was just looking for kind of a powerful like man name, like an action hero kind of a name. And interesting enough, like the novels that I'm trying to write aren't really action hero type names, but I have an action hero type of a name. So I've always found it interesting when authors pick pen names. There's always this great story behind why they chose the names that they did. Very interesting the way that you chose yours. That's very interesting. So tell me, what's your biggest influence that got you interested in writing romance novels?
Well, I like to read them to begin with,
Mm.
and I got to thinking, some of these stories when I'm reading them, I was like, well, what if this would have happened instead of what
Yeah.
the writer wrote? So, just messing with words and changing a story and making it my own
Yeah.
kind of influenced, uh, I guess, my desire to write.
Yeah. So kind of like paraphrasing, I strongly believe in paraphrasing. So whenever I'm trying to write something, I will always, read other books and then I'll find a way to kind of twist it and write it into my own. If you want a better story, write your own. You want to get a better outcome, ask better questions kind of a thing. Um, So, who are your favorite authors?
Depends on my mood.
Okay, that's
I
interesting.
have
I wasn't
several.
expecting that.
uh, I like Jodie Thomas. She
Okay.
writes westerns. If I want something humorous, I like Jill Chavez.
Okay.
Um, the suspense, I like Julie Garwood, and there was one more. Oh, Kat Martin. I read a lot
Okay.
of hers as well.
Okay.
So it just depends. And then there's Regency, and there's sometimes, but I don't have a
Yeah.
favorite author on Regency. So
Right, I understand. That's very interesting you mentioned Regency because oh my goodness, there's so many genres out there. I think like 80% of them are made up just to match the type of book.
yeah,
Because I grew up in the 70s and the 80s, and I know the 80s was a really big period for types of music, for example. There's so many different genres of music. Nowadays with books, there's so many different genres of books that are out there. So, do you feel like there's a genre that would possibly better fit your book, or do you think that yours is very well appropriate?
I think the two that I have published are in the right category. Whenever I've looked at like contests and things, it always concerned me. Paranormal is where my book fell, and
Okay.
I don't feel mine's a paranormal. Time travel to me is just it's a historical romance because I have history in them as well.
Yeah.
But the paranormal, I think of vampires and werewolves, and I just
Mm.
sometimes don't feel time travel fits in those.
Yeah. Well, there's so many different things you can do, historically speaking. You can go back and kind of change history. You can really have a lot of fun with that type of book right there. So what type of research do you do? Any type of research whenever you're researching your writing or like historical value or
Um,
anything like
the,
that?
the first book, All for the Love of a Cowboy, I used to go hiking, backpacking in Durango, Colorado when I growing up, and I love that area. So
Mm.
that's kind of where that story came from. Is that area, the buildings that are still there from the time frame that I wrote in,
Mm.
and I rode the train, so it just kind of fit for the love of that area and the backpacking that I did growing up.
Yeah.
The second book, Raider of Her Heart, went to Lawrence, Kansas, did the museum, did the trail that Cointreau, took that night, and just kind of got a feel for, what happened.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, Kansas is beautiful. I've been through there a couple of times, outside of the tornadoes and everything.
right.
But Colorado, I was trying to think. The only thing I really remember about Colorado is like mountains and everything. Very beautiful
Yeah.
area out there. So tell me, I know picking a publisher can absolutely be mind-numbing. I had a book a few years ago that I had a publisher approach me. They wanted to publish it, but they was really more interested in the content than they were actually in me or the actual book. So it's very interesting, and I chose to remain independent and not go with a publisher. But you actually do have a publisher. So tell me a little bit about who your publisher is and why you chose them.
Wild Rose Press, they're a small publishing company in Upper New York.
Okay.
When I was querying, I would Google publishers and the ones that did time travel, romance, historical. I had a list, and then I went through, and since I don't have an agent, I went through and the ones that would, take queries and
Mhm.
submissions without an agent.
Okay.
And then I queried Wild Rose Press through that way. That's how I found them. So
Okay. So was there like a contract or anything like that? You have so many books you need to write for them, or how
uh,
does that look?
no, I'm not in the series mode. Each book is a standalone, and
Okay.
each book gets a contract if they choose to contract with me.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. I know that there's many different ways to publish books. Whether you remain independent, and there's websites that are popping up every single day that that'll put your book on their site. It's
Yes.
definitely the internet has definitely provided a way in which authors or anybody can pretty much build a platform or build visibility or build something out there on the internet. So reading is very powerful. You see right behind me, you see that I got a few books. Those are actually my TBRs. I haven't read all those books, by the way. That's my TBR list at the moment. So the top shelves
My stack is bigger. I'm sorry, but
oh, so, but I really do think reading is powerful. I read a lot of nonfiction books. That's just what I'm into. I have read some novels, but I know that reading can help find new ways of writing things. So I find it interesting that you write romance, but you love reading suspense, which is actually the complete opposite of romance. So tell me a little bit about that. I mean, does that inspire you to write differently or build kind of like keep them guessing scenes better or something? How does that work for you?
it's romantic suspense. So I don't know if it's different than just plain suspense, but
Hmm.
I like the heroes kicking butt and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure it's something that I could ever get into writing, but I enjoy the whodunit
Yeah.
type and trying to figure out the clues. Usually do before the end of the
Yeah.
book. So
What about books with heroes? You like a good hero, or you just like a mystery or suspense?
yeah, the buff, the FBI, the
Uh-huh.
army, the SEALs. I
Yeah.
like those kind. My husband gives me a hard time, but it is what it is.
Well, I mean, everybody can kind of dream a little bit. When you write books, it takes you to a whole different world or mindset, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah, it's an escape.
That's absolutely awesome. So, what do you find most difficult when you're writing? What's most difficult for you?
Sitting down and doing it, I
Mm.
I have squirrel moments. It's like, oh, that'd be fun to do, and I find myself doing something else other than just sitting down and writing. I have friends that kind of text me and message me and keep me on track, especially
Yeah.
during the summer. There's so much other things to do than sit
It's easy
inside.
to get distracted. I can definitely relate to that. That's why I always try to put my phone on the other side of the room so I don't see it, and I try not to do other things or, open too many browsers on my computer and everything. I can definitely relate to doing things that are considered procrastination things
Yes.
that keeps you away from writing. I can
Yes.
definitely relate to that. So in writing, what are your thoughts about, I guess, word count or anything like that? Do you have a particular word count that you look for, or just when the story's done, the story's done? What's your process on that look like?
Um, that goes back to researching what publisher I
Mm.
was interested in. I did have a publisher I sent to, and their word count was 95,000, and
Mm.
my first book, and I cut 20 some thousand words
Mhm.
into Wild Rose Press's word count. So it depends on who I'm querying and sending my story to, what
Man,
their
that's got to be
guidelines are.
challenging to cut 20,000 words out of a book that definitely had. I mean, did that change your story at all, or no?
It firmed it up.
You
It
firmed it up. Okay.
it was it's one of those things that I thought it was ready, but it really wasn't. And it took the rejection to show me that, okay, you need to edit a little more. You need to make sure it's where it needs to be, and that's kind of what happened. I edited, and then I got my first publisher that I queried is requested. So
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I've talked to other authors about slimming back or cutting back words, and there's been kind of a difference in perspective. It's like it changed the story, it changed the characters, changed different things, and this, that, and the other. And I know there's a challenge there.
yeah, I haven't had too much of a problem there. I don't want to say useless information,
Uh,
but it was information that didn't move the story forward, and it tightened it up. My beta reader, after I had gotten rid of and deleted, said it was a lot better. So
okay. Well, that was definitely positive feedback and good to hear, I'm sure.
yes,
Yeah, I know. Brevity is a big thing. It's a good concept to be able to get straight to the point. Myself, I like to think bottom line up front thinking. So whenever I'm writing, I try to think, but here's the bottom line up front. This is what needs to be said, how it needs to be said, and that's it. So
yeah,
it's like the old saying goes, sometimes no is a complete sentence.
yeah. I'm not fond of over explaining or describing, and
Okay.
I tend to skip. I tend to skip parts if it goes on and on and on.
Uh-huh.
And I think reading, you need to use your imagination a little bit
Yeah.
on what you're reading. So I try to leave some of that to their imagination. So
Okay. So what do you think is harder to write, a character or a scene?
probably a scene.
A scene. Okay,
Yeah,
that's interesting.
kind of getting the action just right and how you want it worded. Um,
Okay. One of the really big challenges that I had, because I like writing prompts, I have a place in which I put writing prompts, and one of my challenges was to write a smell. That was interesting to be able to describe or write a smell, because some people find it easy to kind of describe a character or a room or a situation, but to describe a smell or even a color, oh man, that they loved it. They tore that up. That was a good challenge right there. So if
yes,
you had to write a color or a smell, would you think you'd be able to do it?
it'd probably take a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
I'd have to think about it.
All
And
right.
that's the marvelous thing, typewriter over a computer,
Oh yeah.
delete, 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 delete,
I think I've worn out my delete button. Book signing events, those are huge. I remember one time I was in a Barnes and Noble and there was a book signing event going on, and oh my goodness, this author had, it was a male author, right? And he was very, very flamboyant and had a lot of ladies around him that were just as flamboyant. Oh my goodness, they was making so much noise inside that Barnes and Noble. It was ridiculous. I mean, everybody was like, what is going on over there? Kind of a
It's a
thing.
party, yeah.
It was exactly it. It was a party. They really thought like, this is my party and my living room. Welcome.
Come on in, yeah.
Yeah. So have you ever had like a book signing event that either got out of control or it just or what have you? Have you ever share an experience with that? Have you ever had an interesting
Not
experience at an
yet.
event? No.
I haven't yet.
Okay.
No, the events I've had are, library signings. I'm signed up for the Kansas Book Festival here this year. I haven't ever done that yet, but
Okay.
it's fun to get together with other authors. And I don't like to speak in front of people. I'm one of
Hmm.
those introvert writers.
Yeah.
So getting out there and just doing what I have done is a big accomplishment for me.
Yeah.
So
Well, congratulations, honestly, on that. I mean, definitely. I know that I'm actually a really good writer as well too, and sometimes I can convey things better in writing than I can in public.
exactly.
However, I do have some public speaking experience. I worked on a radio station years ago. I've done some speaking at events, and I actually was selected to be guest speaker at a lot of events as well too. I mean, I was a teacher, a trainer. I mean, so I do have a lot of public speaking experience, and I know how challenging that can be. And, it's stressful to kind of plan and prepare for that. So how do you plan and how do you prepare for your events, like your book signing events and everything? Is there a planning process that you go through, or is it just show up, I'm here, come look at my books and let me sign some stuff and get out of it? How's that work for you?
Well, that's how the first one went.
Oh, well, once you got the first one out of the way, everything after that, you kind of got an idea there.
Yes, I make index cards. No, I don't read off of them.
Mhm.
I just hold them and kind of bounce off the ideas of where I want to go with
Okay.
what I'm trying to tell people. My husband was worried that I was going to just read off of them in front of people,
Uh-huh.
and it's like, no, that's not what I'm doing.
I
So,
don't want to sound like a robot. No, I don't.
right, right.
Because I've done that. I've actually stood there staring like eyes wide open. I'm not going to read from these cards. I've done that. So I can absolutely relate to that right there. Um, so in reference to book signing and book events, everything, one of the most important things that you can have at these events is book swag. I love book swag. So you got to tell me, what type of book swag do you have?
Well, so far I've done the business cards and the
Mhm.
bookmarks.
Okay.
The bookmarks have the Q code on the back in case they want to do an ebook instead of
Right.
the actual book, which is a lot of people want the cheaper,
Hmm.
you know,
And
version.
that's a great idea. I mean, having a Q code on there, that's actually marketing genius right there, because that gives people the ability. So let's say, for example, that you actually set up a book somewhere in a place where you can either give away either a free chapter or something, or even the book itself. Having that Q code on the back of a business card, that's powerful stuff. It's
Yeah.
absolutely powerful.
I went to, I'm not sure if you've heard of the Wild Deadwood Reads. It's a readers conference in Deadwood in South Dakota.
No.
They just met actually this last weekend. I went last year, and book sales were okay. Networking, there was about 75 authors, so it was good to meet people.
Yeah.
But then I noticed on my when I logged on to my publisher that I had, like 4 or 5 ebook purchases in that month. So I'm thinking that they took the bookmark and used that instead of actually buying the book. So
That's awesome, though. I mean, I really think that there's lots of opportunity within Book Swag. I mean, my goodness, you got T-shirts, you got bookmarks, you got keychains, there's so many different ways in which you can market and promote books in the form of Book Swag. And I think that it's absolutely a powerful tool. If used correctly, you can literally gain so much attention and visibility. I mean, you got a shirt on, for example. I think that's great. That's a walking billboard.
My husband, he went with me to the Deadwood conference,
Mm-hmm.
and he had a shirt on. It said "Author's Hubby," and then on the back it said, I put the R in romance, and then it goes, "No, really, I do."
Oh,
So
that's awesome.
everybody loved his shirt, so it really paid to advertise.
Yeah. So do you got your, I can't see all your shirt, but do you got your website on the back or anything like that?
No, it's just my author
Okay.
name.
But that's still good, though, because that's still good advertising. I mean, I've seen authors that have had a logo, for example, on their shirt, and that logo means something. And I know that there's power in a logo or even a name with your book on the shirt right there. That's great advertising right there. Absolutely great advertising. And I know myself, I have bookmarks, and I have business cards that I travel around with. And one of the things that I did is I'll make like a first chapter. So have you ever done like a first chapter type of a thing, maybe a public reading or an online reading or a live reading or anything like that? Have you ever done anything like that?
No.
No? Okay.
I've heard that if you're going to publish with a publisher, you don't want any kind of publication out there of your book ahead of time. So I don't know if that would be considered being published already.
I understand.
So I have not.
I know that there's a lot of rules and regulations and policies and procedures, especially like Amazon, because I know like if you're absolutely onto the Amazon program, that's where your book is at. And that's the reason why I took my books out of that program, because I wanted the ability to have my books in other places other than just Amazon. I didn't want to be bound by that.
Right.
And I know Amazon wants to control the entire market on that, and it's unfortunate for some people, and that's why a lot of authors make the choice of not to take that route.
Right. And Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and there's other locations that my book is available. The publisher, with costs and everything, they used to be able to order it through them, but they've cut back on that just with costs and things. So
yeah. So one of the worst things that can actually happen, I mean, there's a lot of bad things that can happen to an author, but writer's block is probably one of the really bad ones, because if you can't write, well, I mean, how can you be a writer or an author, so to speak? So that's kind of a challenging question that I've asked in the past. But how do you deal with writer's block?
I call it writer's procrastination, because that's what it is. It's not really that I'm blocked, it's just that I'm not wanting to do it.
Yeah.
It goes back to that, there's something fun going on elsewhere. Yeah.
Like a squirrel or something like that. Like, hey, there's a squirrel over there.
Yeah, exactly. I do have a writer friend that's texting me and probably once or twice, a month.
Yeah.
How many words have you written? Are you working on your story? So
kind of like an accountability partner, so to speak.
Yeah.
Okay. Those are awesome. Accountability partners are an absolutely wonderful thing. I know within the businesses that I run, I actually have accountability partners as well too. So what what are your thoughts on having not only accountability partner, but what are your thoughts on having a mentor?
Well, actually, some of the women in the writing group, that Wichita area romance authors, I had several with that first book that helped get me past the, well, this is garbage,
Mhm.
this will never get anywhere
Yeah.
type attitude. Self doubt is hard on everyone. I don't care if you've have 20 books out. It does crawl in there, and you have problems with it. So
Yeah.
I have a couple of ladies that I still am in touch with, that they help with the beta reading. They help with grammar ideas, where the holes are, that type of thing. So I guess they would be considered my mentors.
That is absolutely awesome. Like I said, I have some mentors, and one of the quotes that I have within one of my books is "Don't defeat me, complete me." All right. So, do you actually believe that your mentors, your accountability partners, are just, it's kind of like yin and yang? Do they complete you in that effort?
Yes, and I'm trying to do the same for them.
Okay.
Texting and say, okay, where are you at? Are you
Yeah,
working on what you need to be working on? So
that's
it
awesome.
goes both ways. So
That is absolutely awesome right there. So, what do you have in the works? You have any new books, any new projects, events, or anything like that coming up?
I'm actually working on a Christmas contemporary.
Mm.
Yes, those Hallmark channels are research.
Yeah.
Don't let my husband fool you on that one. Um, I'm I've got a goal of September to have it finished, because there's a publisher that is going to be unaged, and they are accepting in September,
Mhm.
and I'd like to have it done by then, but the procrastination,
Yeah.
uh, I'm having problems with procrastinating. So
Okay. That's awesome, though. I mean, it's always good to have something in the works. So, one of the big questions that I've asked in the other authors is, do you consider yourself an author or a writer?
both.
Both. Okay.
I'm an author because I'm published,
Hmm.
but I'm a writer when you know conversing with people that didn't have to do with my book projects and things. So
Okay.
I a little bit of both.
There's lots of opportunity that's out there for writing type projects right there. Have you considered writing like that? So, like for example, you mentioned something a minute ago about like the holidays. So there's opportunities during holidays or particular seasons or particular things to write particular articles or products or books or something like calendars, planners, things like that. Have you ever considered doing anything like that?
I could if I could work from home. I have a full
Yeah.
time day job, so I yeah, that would be interesting to find out what avenues are out there for
Yeah.
that type of thing. So
There's lots of them out there. All right. So if you could share one golden nugget with a new author or even a more seasoned author, what would that be?
um, it goes back to the self doubt thing. Don't doubt yourself. Just keep at it. Keep working away, chipping at it, because my first book took me. I'm gonna hate saying this, but over 20 years to get where it was published. So
Mhm.
it may take a while, and no, you're never too old. Or
Yeah.
just if you believe that you can do it, just keep at it.
Those are very powerful words, and I agree with you wholeheartedly, 100%. So, kind of the caveat on procrastination, just kind of a word of motivation. If you seek perfection in everything, you will achieve it in nothing.
Okay.
All right. It's a
All
great
right.
quote. I absolutely love that quote. So, sometimes having something that's good enough absolutely is just that, it's good enough. All right. So if you believe, you can achieve. And I strongly believe that. See, I'm a self help professional development writer. So we
Okay.
can have a whole different conversation about that right there. But, once again, I am absolutely blessed and want to thank you that you was able to join me here tonight. You shared some very valuable information. And, and I want to thank you for that, really, from
Well,
the bottom of my heart.
thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you for having me.
All right, so if you'd like to connect with more from N. Jade Gray, you can do so on her website, njadegray.com. You can also connect with her on social media. She is on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I will have her bio, books, and social media links below the video for your reference. And once again, thank you for watching. Keep writing that next bestseller, and I will see you in the next video.